I don't think it's been this bad in decades. We've gone backwards. As an brand image, the industry's not great. Everybody knows about van and tool theft. We've all been done. Obviously, the mental health statistics, the firing rate of people for no reason, not getting paid. But we need people now. We've got an ageing workforce. Listen, I love the industry. I've had a brilliant career and I will continue working in it, doing everything we're doing. It's an easy fix. Now, we can talk about apprenticeships and how they're done and what type of people should apply them. If we go back to schools, there's two types of people at school. And this is me to my kids, to my friends.
Hello, everybody. Gavin Coyle, I'm the Gaffer, back again. We have a fantastic guest today. Andy Stevens is his name. I would put him in the bracket of an entrepreneur in terms of his background, but I'd also put him in as an innovator and disruptor in terms of what he's doing and in terms of what he's done. Been trying to get this guy on the podcast for a while, so he's either being elusive and not being jumping around corners that we couldn't find him, or just really busy. But when you look at his profile and you hear the extent of all the work that he's putting into the construction industry, you'll understand why his time is limited. So we're very blessed to have Andy on the podcast today. And Andy, welcome to I'm the Gaffer. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Just to put your mind at rest, there's no corners I can fit behind. I'm quite a big 6'3" ex-rugby player, so I can't hide. I've been travelling, working, all the usual bits and pieces of day-to-day life. But great to be on.
Great. You are the CEO of the Build Network UK. We'll get into that shortly. But look, I'm fascinated to know the backstory of yourself in terms of the building industry and you and how you got into that. Was it a trade that got you into it initially? You know, give us some insight as regards how the journey started for you.
I didn't have a choice. That's probably not what you're expecting to hear. So late 80s, basically had to, so I was only 12, 13. I had to go to work to earn money. Simple as that. Again, being blunt, I had an utterly shit childhood. I've been open about it. The physical and emotional abuse I had, and ended up going to work quite early. It wasn't great at school either, to be honest. The first job of any note was I was basically a labourer. I was 14, I think, to a guy building treehouses on kids' camps, and I was just blown away by this incredible skill, craftsmanship, not workmanship, craftsmanship of what he created basically with a pile of wood in a tree. And off the back of that, that lit my fire. I found something that I didn't have not just an interest in, but I just wanted to learn more. That then transpired to obviously be doing other work, labouring. And I don't have an apprenticeship. I don't have a degree. I didn't go to college. I purely learned off the old boys on site. And I still to this day think we need to go back to more work on site, look at something more city and guilds based. So I ended up I did a lot of travelling, lived in Sydney. And if labourers think they've got a hard job over here, go and work out there. Believe me, it is a lot harder, especially in the heat. Came back here. I had a little bit of time out of construction because I couldn't get a mortgage on £2 an hour. So I had a few years, not that long out, and then came back in. I then set up development company, and then we had the 07-08 crash. And if the expression all the eggs in one basket kind of comes to mind. But before that, I decided to set a building company up. So we ended up doing all the high-end extensions and refurbs in the commuter belt of London, in Surrey, so including Chelsea footballers because they live not far from where we work, Cobham, the training ground. We won lots of awards. We produced stunning work. We were in all the magazines, on TV. But then I realised something wasn't right. My marriage fell to pieces. I couldn't have that difficult conversation of, and you're going to smile, extras, which comes up on every job. I just couldn't have the confrontation. Having had to give up rugby because 14 surgeries, 90-something stitches in this funny-looking face, I didn't have that release at the weekend. So I was struggling. And then a mate of mine said to me, look, clearly something's not right. He's met police, he's early retirement now. So he sent me to a trauma centre up in town, went and sat down with a psychologist. And after, I think, 4.5, nearly 5 hours, they sent me on my way and then sent a detailed report, diagnosing me with complex PTSD, anxiety and depression for what happened during the childhood. Hence, I couldn't struggled with conflict. It was either straight into it head on, let's go mad, or run away. Then with the divorce doing what it did, 5 years of being not homeless for the whole time, but I was made homeless, couldn't see my kids. Building company went into liquidation. Um, I won't tell you about it, but in and out of temporary accommodation, jail. I sued the police and won. They paid out a couple of years ago because of her lies. And still to this day, 8 years after separating, I'm still fighting to see my daughter, which I think is very sad. And a lot of this does happen in construction with lads, which, is sad. But then all shit went south. And 6 years ago, woke up in hospital having tried to end it. Now, the great thing is I'm still here. I was one of the lucky ones. And a mate of mine said to me at the time, and one day you'll turn this into a positive. And I kind of sat there in the hospital with wires and all this stuff going. I was like, you mad? He was bang on. So coming out of that, sort of getting things back in order, decided, right, there's, I don't have family. So it was just graft. And so started doing talks around the world on what I went through and how I was putting myself back on track. And the first time I did it, it just felt like a big steel had been lifted off my shoulders. The pressure just went. And actually part of the rehab and getting better was helping others. So I've been doing that for a few years. And then really in and out the media the last sort of 10, 12 years, had a series on Channel 4, did stuff with LBC, write for the magazines, talk at the exhibitions. And then one thing was clear. We don't have a platform for construction digitally anywhere in the world, which is a bit mad because in Britain alone, 3.2 million workers, 9% GDP. So we did a lot of analysis and research, decided to come up with something which was predominantly on YouTube, but across all other platforms, launched it last year. The Build Network UK was born. One thing we found from that is construction we know it's very dated, but it's very slow on uptake of new things, social media, AI, digitalization. And that's because of the demographic. You got people like the CLC, haven't heard of TikTok and don't have an Instagram page. I think you're kind of missing the point of what youngsters are using. So yeah, we're only a few months old. I'm still on the tools here and there. I don't work for clients anymore for many reasons. The reason we're pop is we have a lot of bad debts. We went into six figures. The rich don't pay. And as my old brickie said, the rich don't get rich by spending it. There's no support for little building companies. There's only 11 of us. There's no support for us. Certainly don't have the headspace or brain to start fighting people in court. And still to this day, it's happening again and again. But I do charity builds and the odd development. I couldn't stop being on the tools. I'd go insane. I think I love it.
Brilliant. I'm going to have a chat with our researcher because some of that content didn't come into the notes, and I was like, oh my god.
It's not something I shout about, but I think the whole story of where I am now and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it has a basis that what I've been through in the past has alluded to this. And, something we talked about before we started recording, which I'm sure we'll come back to, is the world's in a bit of a funny place, but the good people are coming together and there's some wonderful things happening.
There's so much to unpack with you, Andy. Thank you very much, first of all, for sharing your vulnerability, because we need more of that in the industry as well. And there's a lot of people shouting out about different issues and they don't actually have lived that issue. So for you to come through what you've come through to this point is a credit to yourself. So well done on that. Where are you in a headspace and in a physical space at the moment, do you feel, in terms of where you were maybe 5 years ago?
Different. Do you know what? It's I came out of the marriage. We separated 8 years ago. My ex was actually not the ex-wife. The ex-girlfriend was on the West Coast. She was in Clare. So it was brilliant because during lockdown, when we were permitted to travel, it was a great escape, and it kind of worked for that. Really, she wasn't moving here. I couldn't move there. So then we separated, and I've been with my current partner now 3 years. And I said to her, because when I first got with her, I was getting bizarre things like, in my brain, messages in the morning. Oh, hi, hon, how'd you sleep? And I'm like, leave me alone. Because my brain was attracted to the type of people that basically brought me up, which is not pleasant. And that's what my brain really wanted. That's what it craved. So, as lovely as she was in Clare, she wasn't the right person for me. But then I met Katie, And I actually ended up finishing it after a month because I thought she was harassing me. But in the end, my brain, mates have said, Ange, she's just being nice, mate. So then your brain twists and shifts of actually, what do you want out of life? And with everything I went through, it's just like, right, this is what I'm going to do. And there's absolutely no stopping me. We are building up one hell of a team. And what we're doing, which again, we'll talk about in a bit, around mental health in construction, it's going to be the biggest seismic change the industry's seen in decades. And I'll stand here and say that adamantly.
Like, I definitely think that I'm not a psychologist, but you are a product of your environment. And, you have to honor that badge in one way, the way I see it, and this is my opinion. You have to acknowledge that is the product of your environment, but you can change that product, is what I'm trying to say, where I'm trying to go to. And like, from personal experience, that was something that I looked at as well. Was there's a culture in your family and you're expected to follow that culture, and because it's normalized in your family dynamic, you think that pretty much most other families are kind of dealing with the same thing, but maybe not as extreme. And you find out that's not the case.
No, I think, listen, all the research, lockdown was brilliant for me. I did so much studying and looking at research of psychology and mental health and all sorts. And one thing which all the research proves is from the minute you're conceived to the age of 7, primarily forms you as an adult. So if you've got aggression and shouting around you, that's going to primarily be in you. If you've got a lot of love and affection and time with loved ones, that will also be you. But there are, as you said, there are ways to change it. It's just when you start to get into your teens and later life, the longer you leave it, the harder it is.
Yeah, it's hard to unwind this, but you need to understand the triggers that bring about those worst characteristics. I recognize that characteristic because X was like that as well. And you kind of go, well, I'm not going to be like that. And I'm not going to give that to my kids. We've had some really raw stories on the podcast as well in terms of that space. But one of the areas I wanted to discuss with you, which is a bit of a curveball for you, because I didn't put it into the pre-chat, or we didn't discuss it, is, and it's going to lead into the discussion we want to get into in the main core, is alcohol and the abuse of substances in construction. I'm starting to hear and see a lot of devastation in terms of people's lives and careers, and very senior people or people at the, the top level all the way through. There's no difference between one person and the next. And I'm not just dramatizing this, but we've even had some really strong characters here who have suffered with abuse in terms of substance abuse. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm going to throw you an even bigger curveball back. One thing I didn't say in my story was when things got shit, I went down that road and I started. Listen, playing rugby around the world, there was a big drinking culture. There's no point in hiding that. There still is. I think it goes hand in hand as long as you can, control it. So when things were really rough, I did start drinking more. But like anything, when that kind of initial hit wears off, you need something stronger. So I started smoking weed. That didn't do me any good. I went to Class A's. Now, interestingly, when I got to the point of trying to end it, they did do full bloods in the hospital and I hadn't taken anything for a while. I decided it just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do anymore. Plus, I couldn't afford it. And that was the interesting part, that my brain shut my body down. This is what they've proven now. Then a lot of people trying to take their own life. If it's pills, if it's trying to cut yourself, your brain shuts your body down to stop you doing a proper job. And all the blood tests proved I was clean of everything. But the reason I mention that is because when I did a lot of talks up and down the country, it was around COVID time. Saw just shy of 5,000 trades face to face, up north, down south, east, west. The drinking culture is, and more, drugs, drinking, gambling, prostitution, whatever addiction. A lot of this is because if you look at the big sites, a lot of men, we need more women, but it's predominantly men working away from home. You get lonely. You're under pressure. You're missing your family. You're eating crap food. You've got nothing to do when you put down tools at 4, 5 o'clock. So the easy thing is to start sitting there on this, gambling. I'll have a drink. Next thing, it's a slippery slope. Which brings up the interesting conversation about why isn't drug and alcohol testing compulsory on sites? Well, the reason it isn't, and I'm going to put my neck out here, is because I would want to see the suits doing it as well. The senior contractors, the project management, the health and safety, the CEOs, whatever position you are, because they're all bang on it as well. And I think the whole point is if they were to come in and you were to have, say, 20 white collar workers and you've got 8 of them over the limit, what example is that setting to the boots on the ground? That's my view because I've seen quite a few of them do enjoy a drink and a bit up their nose on a Friday night or Thursday night. And obviously, when you carry it on over the weekend, it's still way into your system the following week. So it is a problem. Is it the right way to address it? Drug and alcohol testing everybody? It is with the right support. So if a young guy or girl comes into work and there's cannabis in their system, don't kick them out. Don't fire them. They probably need every penny they're earning to keep their life going. You could push that person into a completely difficult position, ultimately suicide. Understand what's pushing them to that and support them. And I think that way, if we actually start supporting people, why do you feel you need to have 2 bottles of wine a night or a bottle of vodka? Or, why are you smoking so much gear? Get them into a comfortable environment where they can open up. If it is work or if it's outside of work, give them the support. And trust me, that person will give you so much back. Kicking them down the road without pay is the worst thing to do.
It is, yeah. And well, there is rules around, duty of care from the employer that they do need to have a duty of care once this is brought to the attention. But of course, guys, girls are not bringing it to the attention because they feel vulnerability, number one, and number two, I could lose my job here. And so, I've got to mind myself here because no point in going in Billy Big Man and saying, here, I've got a problem and I'm going to share it with you so we can all work on me to be a better person. That's not the conversations that are being had because people are just burying the problem and hoping that it's not being found out. It is a tricky one. Do you test? Do you not test? Or do you do the whole aviation model, which is there's a error in the system here, hands up, I made the error. It's a difficult one.
I think the interesting point that you said, the duty of care, that's a very grey area because, as we know, most lads and lasses on big sites and small sites are subbies. There aren't contracts of any note in place. One gang we saw, there was a distribution centre being built, huge great thing in the north east. We went and spoke to them. There's quite a few people on site, a few hundred. We ended up getting to speak to them, and the last group with the decorators. You can imagine this thing so big. You've got pretty much trades following each other down it. And we were chatting away. How's it? It's just simple. How's it going? Anything you'd like to see improved? How's work? How's the boss? And they said, "Oh, we're lucky to be here." And I said, "What do you mean lucky? You struggling for work?" And he said, No. The 11 decorators before, they were behind um, financially and time wise, the contractors. So they booted them off with no pay, left it a couple of months, and brought us in. Now this is happening all over the country because the duty of care and employment law is the biggest grey area with so many subby 0-hour contracts, freelance through an agency, whatever. That needs to be cleared up. Then we can have a proper conversation, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll come back to it, but let's get into apprenticeships because I know you're passionate about the conveyor belt or lack of a conveyor belt, or maybe the conveyor belt is there, but it's definitely not the conveyor belt that it should be. Give us your opinion in terms of where we're at in the construction industry in, nurturing and bringing the best talent through for a sustainable product in the future.
I don't think it's been this bad in decades. We've gone backwards. As an brand image, the industry's not great. Everybody knows about van and tool theft. We've all been done. Obviously, the mental health statistics, the firing rate of people for no reason, not getting paid. But we need people now. We've got an aging workforce. Listen, I love the industry. I've had a brilliant career and I will continue working in it, doing everything we're doing. It's an easy fix. Now, we can talk about apprenticeships and how they're done and what type of people should apply them. If we go back to schools, there's 2 types of people at school. And this is me to my kids, to my friends. You've got the ones that work with these, and you'll become vocational. It could be a trade, chef, mechanic, nurse, anything like that. And you've also got these ones that are damn good at doing exams and clever, go to university, and do something with a degree. But rather than, my kids are 11 and 12, and they're still told basically go to university or fail. Now, when I was told that back in the late 80s, early 90s, I just went, fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I think if you go back to, if you remember the forces, Army, RAF, Navy, I can't remember if it was late 80s or 90s, they were struggling to get recruits, youngsters in, and they did that really cool TV campaign. I don't know if you remember it. Suddenly, wow, I want to do that. Their numbers went through the roof. They're still using similar ads to this day. And they got that upsurge. So if we really want to attract people into the industry, we've got to change the perception of what people are getting into and also what your kids are going into. So if we did, and this is one thing we're doing, but it's taken an awful lot of time at the Build Network, is we want to inspire the next generation. Every kid's on this. No one is watching BBC Two, ITV. So if you had really inspiring short videos done, when the kids are watching it with mum and dad, they're like, Mum, have you seen that crane operator? How cool's that? She's now working in Australia. Dad, have you seen that bricklayer? He's earning 700 quid a day. Look at what the pointing he's doing on those London stocks. He's beautiful. I want to do that, Dad. Whereas at the moment, it's the opposite. Oh, Dad, you don't really want to go into construction, son or daughter. So it's an image we've got to change. And actually, we need to celebrate those that work with their hands because there's a lot of us. And then obviously when the apprenticeships are starting to be booked up, we actually need, let's go back to City and Guilds. Now, I've read, and I don't know if it's correct, but I have read that City and Guilds was only stopped when we joined the EU. So we fell into the European model. So I now look at it and think, okay, rightly or wrongly, we're not part of the EU. So let's shelve that and bring something similar back. So there's more site-based work. And as we said before recording, how do you learn plastering in a classroom? The hardest thing, as we know, is right, you've got to get the mix right. It's getting it off the hook, onto the trowel, onto the wall without covering the floor in it. Can't do that in a classroom.
Hi guys, as you're enjoying this podcast, I just wanted to take a few seconds to let you know about my company, Coyle Group. We're not just another safety recruitment agency. We're your partners in building a safer future. With over 25 years of experience and more than 1 million hours of safety work completed, our mission is clear. Provide top-tier health and safety contractors tailored to the unique needs of your project. We also carry out on-site construction audits. From wind energy to power stations, utilities and engineering projects, our global reach and specialised expertise ensures your operations are not just compliant, but exemplary. For more information on how ensuring safety and sustainability of your products using our team of HSE contractors, visit coyle-group.com or click on the show notes or video description now. I've also put a booking link into the description for you to click and have a one-to-one conversation with me. Now, back to the podcast. Enjoy and see you soon. No, I'm a big fan of hours logged, and there is some sort of a benchmark that 10,000 hours gets you to the competency stage, is what they say in the books. And I agree with that. It's somewhere in around 10,000 hours input gives you that sort of competency badge to say, look, I have the education, I have the skill, I have the lived experience, I have the mental and physical attitude to do this job. And I look at the likes of rope access rescue and riggers and how they have to log their hours every time they go out to go on a particular physical structure, and the supervisor signs off on those hours, who's obviously a level ahead of them. And I just love that model, that it's kind of like a peer-to-peer model as well. That's there's somebody that's overseeing you, that's giving you that supervision and instruction if needed. But a lot of these cases, these guys don't need it, but they are regimental in terms of getting that logbook signed off, because they're going to lose their status as a errata, for example, would be the organization. So it's not as if there's nothing out there to benchmark against. And I'm totally with you in terms of classroom-based instruction has a place, but it has a smaller place, I believe, in terms of physical hands-on experience and background being safety. 4-year degree guys are coming out with a safety degree or NEBOSH after 3 years, or now you can do a 12-week course and you get a diploma in safety. But when you look at it, it says diploma on this, and it's not to say that this organization is not credible, but the credits scheme, and I spoke to the universities about this, is look at the credits, Gavin. The credits are so low that they would never come near a diploma or a degree in terms of a university. But employers are looking at the certificate and going, this guy's got a diploma. They don't ask, how long is the diploma? 12 weeks. I was like, I just, online training, yes, it has its place. Instant allows you flexibility and all that kind of stuff, cuts down on travel. Get all of that. But the fundamental training of an individual to be competent and to execute a skill set that they can then pass on to the next generation is more important than anything else. And if anyone's out there that they're doing something different and to think that they have a magic wand in this area, happy for anybody to reach out and come on the show and talk to them about it. But I'm not so sure I've seen a differential across the board in construction.
There's one thing. So Mark Reynolds, the CEO of MACE and the CLC, Construction Leadership Council, came on the show, came into the studio, I think it was September last year. One thing we talked about after recording, which we continue to talk about, which is now seems to be going ahead, and I kind of support it, is this 6-month intensive training. Now, listen, you are not going to be the polished tradesperson, executive in that, but it's going to do you well enough to start. And I think this is where you've got to look at different levels of apprenticeships. For example, you've got your apprenticeship. Does that mean that you're going to go onto a big site as a brickie, start running the line with, curved windows and difficult corners and corbelling and all this? Or are you there as a apprentice labourer for the brickie? So you know what gauge of muck, how much feb to use, where the blocks, where the spot boards, bricks, wall ties, insulation, wall start, where all of that is. Because I think in the apprenticeship, and this is what I loved at learning, I was just a dog's body. But you got to know who needed what when. And then when you start running the line yourself, it's automatic. So those bits to me are imperative. Yes, it's bloody hard work. Your delivery lorry turns up, there's 8 bulk bags of soft sand, a couple of bulk bags of dust, all the bricks and block, everything he's bumping around the back. But as you do that, you then think, okay, when I do this on my own, everything is second nature how to set up. So I think, listen, the reason we've not got it sorted is the wrong people are doing the job. If we're the right people doing the job, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And I think the problem is a lot of these apprenticeships, and I do know a couple of people that have written them, are written by people that aren't hands-on experience in that specific trade. If it's joinery or decorating or whatever it is. So there is I think the apprenticeship system needs to be really looked at. And then when that's right, we can then start going out and getting people in. It's pointless getting people in now because 50% don't go past year 1. So that to me says a lot as well.
We had a really good guest on who was based in America, and he was a union member, and wouldn't say totally proud, but he's a believer in the union. And not to say that he discredited the non-union members within construction, but one of the differentials that really was strong in the episode was how they looked after individuals who were wanting to get into the construction industry, how they trained them, how they nurtured them and looked after them. And he spoke very passionately about himself wanting to, give back and, work hands-on with these individuals. Like there doesn't seem to be that in the UK or Ireland. I don't know about the rest of Europe. It seems to be just a sort of a sterile apprenticeship environment that's not really authentic. And when I hear you talking about MACE and companies like that and doing 6-month apprenticeships, that are more intensive hands-on. I love that. But I think even going back further back from that into the sort of the school years, what are we doing at the, at the 14, 15, 16 years of age uh, demographic to enlighten these people and bring the brand safety or the brand construction into their mindset and go, do you know what? There is hope for you here, and there's so much opportunity. And I think there's a missed trick there.
Listen, the schools aren't doing enough. It's an age-old system. The education system hasn't changed in, 50 years? We're not talking a couple of years. So when you get to the stage, which I did, my 11-year-old lad's kind of there now, every day, how's school, son? Boring. He's not an academic. So rather than just sort of think, oh, we'll get him with whatever grades we can, this is the time, 11, 12, 13, to say, look, have you thought about a vocational career? The work you're doing in this arena is brilliant, but you're not good at maths or ancient history or whatever drivel they're taught. And I think if we celebrate the people that are good with their hands, rather than making them feel a bit thick, which schools do. There's so much pressure with reports and exam results and everything else. If we say, look, what have you thought about becoming a tradesperson or a chef or a mechanic? Suddenly, you start lighting this fire in them. Because let's not forget one thing, and I always say this: when kids start nursery in years 1, 2, 3, how much crap do they come home with they've made? Cereal boxes, loo rolls, shoe boxes, because it's in our DNA to create and build things. Boys and girls. Get to that first couple of years of primary school, here's an iPad, here's a computer, all the creativity is sucked out of you into a machine. And that's why we're in the position we're in.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So we're tackling a lot of issues here. We're tackling substance abuse, mental health, the issues with apprenticeships. But let's talk about the build network, because all these topics aren't just flying around in space somewhere. These are actually topics close to your heart. And for the listeners and the viewers, this is where we're going with this podcast is, you have a blueprint in your business where you're trying to bring all of these key issues into the build network. So tell us about that, and tell us how, give us some good news, because we've spoken about some bad news so far. I want to get some balance in the podcast.
Yeah, listen, I don't know, save the best to the end or whatever. But anyway, there's some brilliant news in many facets. So when I was doing a series on Channel 4 a number of years ago, I didn't finish it. One of the reasons was I was going in with a very well-known presenter to, let's say, your house. All the crew were there, right? This family have got £2,800. They want a new central heating system, rewire kitchen, bathroom, flooring, and decorating. And I was like, well, they're not going to get anywhere near it for that sort of money. I said, you get a boiler on the wall, get the flue out, commissioned and tested, but you can't say that. Anyway, didn't finish the series. So with all the other sort of media stuff I've been doing, I thought, is there a platform where anyone in construction, any demographic, can get free help, resource and advice? We did all this research. And bizarrely, that's why UK's on the end. There isn't anything globally, and we're obviously such a big industry. So we set this up with the main platform being YouTube, but also on other platforms, social media-wise. We looked at TV. No one watches it. The viewing figures are literally crashing every week. So we set this up last summer 24. The idea initially, and it still is to an extent, is to inspire the next generation. But it's now whilst creating positive change from top to bottom. We've been very receptive to feedback, if it's from one person or lots of people on the same subject. The inspirational side is kind of taken slight back foot because we want to get what we've got right first. There's no point in bringing people in if it's not right. So the good news is we've had some brilliant guests in. I mentioned Mark Reynolds, good friend of mine, Charlie Mullins, ex-Pimlico Plumbers. Again, look at him. Left school at 13, started a plumbing apprenticeship at 14, sold Pimlico Plumbers in 2021 for 154 million, and he set another business up. That's somebody we should be aspiring to be like. Great story, great guy as well. Love him to bits. So we then started looking at. So I've worked with pretty much all the charities around mental health in construction. Some are doing some incredible work, some not. And bizarrely, it's the smaller ones that are doing the great work. So we've been having conversations, a small group of us, about okay, construction is predominantly run by tier one, tier twos. Most people aren't aware they represent a grand total of 2%, 2% of the industry. So the 98%, the micro and SMEs, don't have a voice. The big thing is mental health. If we get that fixed, we get more people retained in the industry and we've got more of an attractive industry to get people in. So we've been working on something in the background, which is currently working with certain, be careful what I say because it's not public knowledge. We're working with some brilliant people, but that includes Parliament, where we are working. All I'll say is we're working on something that hopefully we can announce in the next few months, which is going to revolutionise construction mental health wise. Because let's be honest, if the people that were doing it now had done it right and were the right people, we wouldn't be losing all these people to suicide. My personal opinion, the senior people in the industry, if I was bothered about something, I would put everything into it to make sure it's fixed. The reality is nothing has changed in decades around mental health. Nothing. There's all this tick box bollocks around World Mental Health Day and Stress Awareness Month and all this. Next month, on to something else. These mental health first aid courses for 2 days online, all the research says these are actually negative effect. But there's some people and some charities earning millions from it. So, with all the experience we've got and the group we've got together, we are working on something which is going to be brilliant. And eventually, when we get this finalised and put through, then we can start seeing the positive sides out of it. I think the big thing for me, which is a little sad and something we're working on, is the Office of National Statistics, who we work very closely with. We got a set of figures from them, and then again, this is all evidenced on email. They then came to us and said, "Look, we've got the figures wrong." The reality is they can't give us an accurate figure for construction suicides. Give you an example. The line, as you know, with ONS, there's groups, subgroups, minor groups. It's about that thick. If you're good at reading data, have a go. It's brilliant. If you're not, like me, get a professional to do it. But underskilled trades, to me and you, that would mean one of us. But it includes professions like jewelers. So they can't give us an exact figure for construction suicides. We know it's exceptionally high, but they can't give us an exact figure. So that needs to be changed. Being the biggest industry with suicide numbers, surely that should be as a priority. So at the moment, you come onto my site, I drive over you in a digger, that site is shut immediately. HSE all over it, reports, litigation, everything goes on. Generally fine or prison sentence. Now, if you think from the year to year, so 2023 was 38 fatalities on site in the UK. Last year was 51. So it was a big jump, which is quite sad. You need to start putting noughts on the end of that for suicides. Yeah, you walk into site, there's 2 guys hung themselves. Right, get them down. Anyone else know 2 other decorators? We've got to push the job on. It's fundamentally wrong. And it's not just the people that have taken their own life, it's these around them. And we know a site manager on a tier one who walked in to unlock in the morning. One of the toilet doors was locked, couldn't get in, eventually put his shoulder through it. And there's a guy in there who had killed himself. Now, the way in which he killed himself, there was a lot of blood. Now, this poor guy's got to live through that, and he's not had a lot of support. So there's an awful lot that needs to be done. The great news is I think it's quite straightforward. And as I said on the interview with Mark Reynolds, given full autonomy with the right team, we could have this turnaround in 12 months. All I can say is watch this space.
So would that happen this side of 2025, or do you think, are you confident that could happen?
We've really only properly started putting resource and everything into it in the last kind of 6 weeks. I still would like to say by Christmas it would be wonderful to have something put in place, but I can't control how certain bodies, ministers work, how quick or slow they are. But we are building up such a momentum, nobody will stop us.
So I can hear people in the background sort of screaming ask the question, how does this guy do everything he's doing and actually make an income? So, are you still building? You said you're still on the trades. does the build network cost anything to be part of? Like, talk to us about the economics of how you operate at the moment.
Again, cards on the table. I am shit with money. Rubbish. And I think, again, that needs to be part of school. I still haven't got I've got no pension. I've got no savings. I never have had. So the reality is, and the gospel truth is, I remortgaged, took out a big business loan and credit cards to start the Build Network. And at the moment, yes, we have sponsored partners and we have partnerships, which brings in some revenue. And we are, inverted commas, making money, but there's an awful lot to be paid back for all the initial setup costs, as you're aware. So that I also do talking events. So I do talks up and down the country still for glazing federations, home building, renovating. I've worked with for 8 years, the NEC and Excel. I write articles. So I earn, but I don't earn much. I don't give a shit about money. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. If I can turn round and have a conversation with you in time and go, this is what we put in place. Look at the lives we're saving. That's me done. That's me done. I don't want to be driving around in flashy cars and living in multi-million-pound houses. Look, cards on the table, because of how I was brought up and it was obsession with earning money because I had to go to work early. I had a dream. By 30, I wanted to be in a £1 million house with an Italian sports car on the drive. And I'll tell you what, I did it. I've never been so unhappy. Never been so unhappy. I hated it. I hated my life. Then the whole divorce, etc., started to come about. Yes, it was hard work saying goodbye to the Maserati. Don't get me wrong. Divorce took care of that. But now I'm living in a half-finished house that's not really worth much. Um, where am I happier? I'm happier in a home, not a house. And all the big major houses we used to do up that were worth multiple million, was it a home afterwards? It was a house. There was no feel. There was no, because it was so big and vast. It wasn't that homely feel. It was just like a bloody big box. So the answer to your question is, there's a bit of money coming in, but I don't care.
So, is there a board? I suppose I'm trying to get a sense of the structure as well. Like, do you have a board of directors that are, like-minded people that are maybe filling the gaps, like the financial gaps and stuff like that, to give you that governance, so that the the really good issues that you're dealing with are, structured, and there's a sort of a discipline within the business. Talk to us about the framework or structure of the business.
Yeah, there are people who, so we do sit down and have conversations. It's a very relaxed agreement. They share the vision with me. There's different ways that we remunerate each other. I've started to work recently that been a big fat forward years ago. It was asked down, head up, look for contact, smash. And I needed to get good people around me that specialize in areas that I'm poor at. And one of them is financials. So when you start bringing those people in, we had another studio before we launched that was, it was just dreamland studio. But then they started to see the vision of where we were going and the cost started escalating. So we had to can all the content we'd shot for a year and start again. But the studio now, even though it's not as big, is brilliant. It's superb. Um, the way in which we go about things, like, we've looked at, so we've just, and you'll be the first to hear this because it's only finalised this week. We're going to be putting out a press release hopefully tomorrow, if not Monday. We're sponsoring a young female racing driver because it was very bizarre when her team approached us. It just looked at me like construction. We've got no women in it. We need more women so badly. And she's got this in motor racing. So she's only young, still at school, but she is doing ever so well and she needs all the support she can get. So we've become one of her sponsors. And we believe that clever partnerships like that, we're working with others in the background, not necessarily sponsoring, but kind of contra deals, old school, is going to be the way we sort of move forward. And I think, listen, financially, we have got obviously 1, 3, 5 year plan. But if the numbers aren't hit, but lives are being saved, to me, that's way more important. Way more important. If you're good at something and you've got a passion for something, financially it'll take care of itself. And it will. And it is. But I could go out tomorrow and get loads more sponsors. But also, you don't want to be a Formula One car where you've got ads everywhere and people are like, what is the bloody message? I got this, I got that, I got this pop up, this going on. So we are very careful with who we work with as well. We've had an awful lot of companies come to us. We've rejected a lot of them because it's not right for us. So finance, do we want loads of ads popping up? Will we get a percentage revenue share? No. We're not selling our soul. We're a branding company. And we want to build a strong brand and help people and help the industry, people that want to get behind that and support our brand with theirs and grow together. Fantastic. And that's why, I don't know which live, that's why Helly Hansen supply our work gear. We do a lot with Trustmark. We're just working on another series with them. All the partnerships we've got, people that believe in what we're doing and getting on early, and that's what we're doing with the racing driver. But I think back to the answer to your question of financials, it's I need to be a bit more on top of it, but I don't. It's money. I don't care. It really doesn't bother me.
No, well done, and it's a credit to you. I'm going to throw some more curveballs at you because I like to do that. Knowing what you know now, Andy, what would you do different?
Sorry, say that again. You just froze. Sorry, Gavin.
Knowing what you know now, Andy, what would you do different?
With the build network or my career on the tools?
In general, in life.
In life, the first thing I would do is you've got to be happy inside yourself before you can do anything. If it's emotionally, financially, physically, if you're not right internally, you will never do anything properly. Anything. You'll get in the wrong relationships. You end up with the wrong job. Might end up getting an addiction that we talked about earlier. So that's the thing. And with that, surround yourself with the right people. And as I've said, I haven't got family, even if my inverted comma parents, who I don't think they are, even if I was still in touch with them, wouldn't want to know them. They're not pleasant people. But the friends I've got around me and my partner, you cannot buy that. You can't buy that. So I think the good people you have around you, you start to then attract other good people. And I'm very much a believer in, sort of alternative and holistic ways of living. And listen, it's vibrations, it's positivity. If you walk into a pub and you just feel it's going to go off, you know what I mean? You've been into these rough pubs. Any minute, someone's getting launched across that bar. Pint glass is going to start going because it's the energy, it's the vibrations. Now, anyone, unless you want a row on a Friday night, you're going to leave. But also the good people, if you're giving off these good positive energies, when you walk into a room, you get the good ones come towards you and vice versa. And I think as you get older, I'm 50 in, oh my God, a few months. And you experience is key. I only really know the real me in the last couple of years. And I think if you said that to a 27-year-old, a 35-year-old, that you've got to live a lot. And when you've got everything settled internally, everything around you starts fitting into place. That's when you're ready to do something properly.
And makes sense. Yeah, 100%. Well said, by the way. Favorite book or movie or both?
Oh, blimey, I don't do a lot of reading. I get bored. I've got no attention span. If you send me an email, it could take me a month to get back to you. I struggle with that sort of thing. But I tell you what, movie-wise, there's two. Now, the great thing is, with not having any short-term memory, because all the concussions playing rugby, I can watch the same film over and over again. My other half, Katie, takes the piss all the time. I was like, this movie looks brilliant. She went, we watched that 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, did we? I can watch it again because I don't know what happens. So, gospel truth, I've seen a film called Limitless. I've seen that 21 times. It's brilliant because I still don't know what happens at the end of it. And also, I'm a big fan of Platoon. Big fan of Platoon. It's a great movie. But yeah, it's every day's a new day for me. It's brilliant. No short-term memory.
I love the fact that you picked Limitless as the title movie for the movie that you keep on watching 21 times.
Brilliant. And I think what I like about it, it's got Bradley Cooper in, who's obviously a very good actor, good looking guy. And it's all about, I won't ruin it in case people haven't seen it, but it's basically the fact that we use such a small percentage of our brain. If we could tap into the rest of it, and this pill that he gets given does, what potential do we have as humans? And obviously with the psychology and everything else we're working with, it's good. But again, I don't know, I might watch it tonight. because it's been a few weeks since I've seen it.
Well, on that score, actually, I'll throw in a new one, which I haven't really asked before. But what's your morning routine?
I don't like being honest all the time, but I stick by it. I think being open and honest is a trait that not many people are these days. I set the alarm. I do spend 20 minutes pissing about, flicking through shit on my phone. I'd love to say I get up and go for a run. I don't. Um, the routine after that is get as much black coffee in me as I can. Usually by, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock, I've racked up a fair few black coffees. Depending what I'm doing, obviously it could be going to the studio, it could be traveling up north to do filming. If not, I try and get the mad dog who's next to me and actually behaving, get her out for a walk because she's got so much energy. Do you know what? The reason I pause is I don't have a routine. I think a lot of people have said this is wrong. But if I decide I want to take her out on a 3 hour walk because I need to clear my head, I'll do it. And then I'll work into the evening or work at the weekend. I don't have a set diary of, unless it's meetings, filmings, whatever. I don't have a set diary of, I've got to get this done by then. This is my time to do that. Because I don't believe you do the best work if your head's up your ass. And there's all sorts of stuff I've got going on in a personal life which needs my attention. And I'm not going to not do that because I've got to get something work done. So there isn't a set pattern, possibly because I'm a bit skitsy as well, and I get distracted and end up playing some stupid Kaplunk game on my phone rather than doing an email.
Andy Stevens, what a great guest you've been on the show. If people want to get in touch with you, people want to definitely if anyone's listening to the show, by the way, we've covered some really trauma sort of topics, and if there's anything that's triggered you, definitely reach out to somebody that can give you that support, or a charity, or companies like the Build Network are there to support people, I'm sure. Andy, I'll let you take the stage on that in terms of that discussion, and how can people get in touch with you? Why would they get in touch with you? And where do they get in touch with you?
So we are across all social media platforms at the Build Network UK. Please contact us through that, or if you want my direct email, it's always there. I always read it. It's andy@thebuildnetworkuk.com. Why would you want to get in touch with us? If you believe what we're doing and want to get involved, we're not asking for bucket loads of money. We're just asking for people to start coming on board, helping us grow, which means the bigger we get, the more work we can do. And why are we doing it? We're doing it because we want to see positive change now. We don't want to wait another 20, 30 years where we got workers in the ground because they've fallen on hard times and not had the support they need. As I mentioned, there are some brilliant companies and charities out there, but there's also a lot of dross which are making an awful lot of money on the proviso of actually helping people. And, I've always stood by one line. The truth always comes out. And I think in order for us to get to where we want to go, we are going to have to upset the odd apple cart because it's been decades where nothing's changed. And there's a reason things aren't changing. Some people are doing exceptionally well out of others' misfortunes, and that doesn't sit right with me. So, please get in touch. I think, as Gavin said, if anything has caused you a little bit of upset or to get you thinking negatively, please reach out to places like the Samaritans, or any charity. There's some really good ones out there. I think as well, if you do want to support a charity, mental health in construction, to me, the one that stands out by a country mile, having worked with pretty much all of them, is one called Construction Sport, who are, as we speak, cycling from one side of England to the other, to raise money and raise awareness. And their CEO, Steve Kerslake, a good mate of mine, we're doing an awful lot together. And the positive change is coming, folks. And yes, it's taken time. And in a way, the ones that are involved can apologise for that. But we've now built up a fair head of steam. And it was a bit like when you're at school and there's always that massive rugby bloke, huge. You think, is he 28? But no, he's 13. He runs through everybody because you can't get near him. We're kind of like that now. And we are building up that much steam. We're only going to be heading one way, and that's getting this sorted. So hopefully this year, if not early next year, we're going to have an absolutely brilliant announcement to make. As I say, there may be the odd little apple cart upset along the way. But do you know what? These are people's lives. We're not flogging shoes or holidays. This is important. And it's about time this positive change actually started happening now.
Well, Andy, on that note, you better come back to us in a year's time and give us an update and let us know what it is that is the magic wand that you have sitting there ready to go. And again, anybody that has an issue that wants to reach out, you heard Andy himself, and Andy obviously is very open in terms of, you know, if you catch him on LinkedIn, you can send him a message on LinkedIn, even for a chat. Doesn't matter. He's open book, he's honest, he's brutal, and he wears his heart on the sleeve. So well done, Andy, and thank you so much for being on I'm the Gaffer.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to coming on, hopefully this year, if not early next year, with the update.
Take care, pal. Hello, Gaffers. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. We love every one of the guests that we have, but in order to bring on more great guests, we'd love to build the channel with you. So hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and let's create a really great community where we bring in better and better guests for you to deliver great content and great pieces of information that you can take back into your business.